Page 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Still stuck in the same old Holy Soul village, still dealing with the same tool character vibes, but Jiang Chen. He unlocked a wild martial spirit, something totally new to Douluo Continent. Think of it like pure chaos, fueled by blood, skipping reincarnation, dodging hell, ignoring lightning, basically, forgotten by heaven and earth, outside the whole six-realm cycle. Jiang Chen figured, why reinvent the wheel? Following Tang San seemed easiest, but a twist landed him in the Spirit Hall. At first, Jiang Chen was bummed, but then he realized, Spirit Hall had perks like Bibi Dong, the hot master, the gorgeous Xiaoxue, and a vixen-like senior sister, Ding. Congrats, host, you survived another disaster. Reward, Thunder Tribulation Elixir and a Spirit Ring upgrade ticket. Staring at the fading storm clouds, Jiang Chen sighed. When will these lightning strikes ever end? Chapter 1, The Plague Incarnate of Holy Soul Village, Douluo Continent, southwest of the Heaven Do Empire, Ficino Province, Holy Soul Village. Just before dawn, a rooster's crow kicked off a chain reaction across Holy Soul Village as the full moon started to fade. North of the village, tucked away in the most isolated spot, stood a small courtyard. That first crow woke a kid, maybe 5 or 6, sleeping on the roof. Anyone seeing him would have freaked. His eyes were solid black, no whites at all, like pools of ink, super creepy, with a faint dark haze around them that just amplified the terror, but that weirdness was fleeting. The kid stood up, staring at the pale sky. His short, dark hair was neatly cut. He wore simple clothes, his skin a bit pale, but his eyes were sharp enough to cut glass, giving off an intimidating vibe. Suddenly, those eyes flicked, catching sight of a kid leaving the village. He moved in a flash, covering ground in a single stride, and headed towards a nearby hill. That's Tang San off to practice again. Wonder what level his Shen Kung is at. Su Yuntao should be showing up any day now. The kid muttered to himself. As he spoke, the sharpness in his eyes softened, becoming bright and clear. His name was Jiang Chen, a kid from Holy Soul Village, but with a seriously bad rep. People treated him like he had the plague, avoiding him like the plague. Some even called him a jinx or a walking disaster. Anyone who got close to him, even livestock, usually ended up dead. All right. Jiang Chen stretched, cracking his bones, a sly grin spreading across his face. He jumped off the roof, a drop of several feet. He landed like a cat, without a scratch. Anyone watching would have been floored. For a kid that age to climb a roof was one thing, but to leap off like that? Unbelievable. Brushing off his butt, Jiang Chen was about to start humming when he caught sight of something in the corner of the yard. The 2 plump chickens locked in their pen, stiff as boards. My chickens! Jiang Chen groaned, rushing to the pen. He poked at them, confirming they were dead, stone cold dead. What a waste! His face twisted in grief as he reached out and touched them. Strangely, a wisp of black mist started oozing out of the chickens, swirling towards his hands and disappearing into his body. As the mist drained, the once fat chickens shriveled up like jerky. Jiang Chen expertly grabbed the corpses and headed out. Behind him, the courtyard looked downright cursed. Not a single blade of grass grew there, the ground cracked and barren, utterly lifeless. It was like a dead zone compared to the rest of Holy Soul Village. The dead chickens, the weird yard, all his fault. Barely anything could resist the aura he gave off. Weaker creatures died outright, stronger ones got sick. Even the ground itself was splitting under his influence. That's where the plague god and jinx nicknames came from. Even though he lost 2 chickens, Jiang Chen was a natural optimist, so he shook it off quickly and went to bury the birds outside the village. That done, he didn't head home. Instead, he ran towards the river nearby. With the chickens gone, he'd need to catch some fish for dinner. He needed to grow, and he wasn't about to become like that dweeb Tang San, burying himself in training and neglecting his body. Unlike Tang San's skinny frame, Jiang Chen was already ripped, muscles bulging. He knew his way around the river. Half an hour later, he was heading back with 3 big fish strung through their gills. The fish were hefty, and he carried them high to keep their tails from dragging. As he passed the hill where Tang San trained, he paused, just in time to see Tang San coming down. Hey, Tang San, Tang San saw Jiang Chen too, and forced a smile. Jiang Chen, you're up early. Jiang Chen walked closer, but Tang San flinched, taking a few steps back. No, stay away. Tang San waved his hands, a hint of fear in his eyes, because it wasn't just the adults, kids, and livestock in the village who suffered from Jiang Chen's curse. Even he, protected by the Taoist Xiantian Kung, had almost been taken down. He'd once felt that icy aura suddenly pouring out of Jiang Chen, invading his body. Without Xiantian Kung, he would have been seriously ill. Page 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The worst part was stumbling on Jiang Chen sneaking down the mountain one morning before Tang San went up to practice. He was furious when he got to the top. The little hill was barely 100 meters, but by the time Jiang Chen had come down, the mountaintop and everything 30 meters down was withered and yellow, as if all the life had been sucked out of it. For months, Tang San got way less spiritual energy from his mountaintop practice, and it took forever for the place to recover. Jiang Chen just rolled his eyes, knowing Tang San was thinking about that mountain incident again. He swore it was an accident. He'd just been curious about Tang San's secret practice spot. When he tried it out, his own energy overflowed and caused that whole mess. He felt bad for ruining someone else's spot for no reason. Here, I caught some fish. You can have one. He tossed a fish over without getting closer. Tang San snatched the straw, catching the big fish with a confident grab. Thanks, Tang San said. They were only about 15 feet apart. Suddenly, Jiang Chen's black, gem-like eyes lit up, fixating on Tang San's healthy neck, and he visibly swallowed hard. He could practically hear the blood rushing through Tang San's veins, and he thought he could see the pulse throbbing. The sound of the blood flowing and the rhythm of the pulse were mesmerizing. Seeing the change in Jiang Chen's eyes, Tang San felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. A shiver ran down his spine, making his scalp tingle. Jiang Chen, gotta go make breakfast, see ya. Tang San bolted, big fish in tow, and vanished back towards Holy Soul Village. Damn it, why am I always so hungry? Jiang Chen muttered, wiping away a stray drop of saliva and quickly doing some exercises to calm his craving. If Tang San's dad found out, he'd probably smash him with a hammer. Chapter 2 Abandoned Son. Back home, Jiang Chen stashed one fish and headed towards Old Jack's house. Old Jack was his savior, really. He'd lived with Old Jack ever since he was 3, when his evil practice started and the whole village treated him like the plague. Even Old Jack could barely stand to be around him. He'd get seriously sick every so often. Eventually, Old Jack gave Jiang Chen the most remote courtyard and let him live alone. Jiang Chen knew he was bad news for the villagers, so he didn't hold a grudge. Once he got better at hunting, he caught a bunch of game and offered it to the village, but they all refused. The villagers were terrified. They wouldn't go near Jiang Chen or take his gifts, fearing they'd be cursed. Only Old Jack and Tang San's family weren't that afraid of him. He always shared his catch with Old Jack, who appreciated it. Along the way, everyone who saw Jiang Chen, women doing laundry, men heading to work with tools, kids playing, all looked away in horror, afraid of catching something. He's a curse, that bastard. The women whispered. Some kids even threw rocks at him from a distance, though they never hit him. Jiang Chen suddenly turned, pretending to pounce, which sent the kids scattering with squeals. Seriously? You little guys are too easy to scare, Jiang Chen laughed. It was just a bit of fun, messing with the ignorant brats. Old Jack's house was near the center of the village, and Jiang Chen arrived quickly. The sun was already up, and Old Jack was already enjoying it, lounging in a bamboo chair in his yard. Grandpa Jack. Jiang Chen called out. Hearing Jiang Chen's voice, Old Jack flinched, then scrambled to his feet, ran to the gate, and quickly locked it. He took a few steps back inside in relief. Jiang Chen wasn't surprised. He stopped at the gate without getting angry. Grandpa Jack, I brought you a fish. That's mighty kind of you, Xiaoxue. Just hang the fish on the door, and I'll get it later. Old Jack stayed a good 15 feet away from the door. Jiang Chen hung the fish on the knob, looking at the yard where he'd lived for 3 years with a tinge of nostalgia. Old Jack had taken him in when he was just a baby, raising him for 3 years. They said he'd been abandoned outside Notting City. Old Jack found him skinny as a rail, no bigger than a mouse, barely breathing. Old Jack didn't think he'd make it, but he clung to life. The villagers said that the day old Jack found him, the sky was dark, and thunder roared like the wrath of God, scaring everyone. Later, when Jiang Chen's evil practice started and he caused harm, the villagers linked it to the thunderstorm, thinking he was an outcast, cursed by God. Jiang Chen didn't believe it. He was just a kid, how could he anger the heavens? He was about to leave when he remembered something. Grandpa Jack, when's Su Yuntao coming? How many times do I have to tell you? Be polite and call him Master Su Yuntao, understand? Old Jack scolded, then he said, Master Su Yuntao will be here the day after tomorrow. Make sure you come and get tested. Page 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Chen sensed something was off and asked, suspicion coloring his voice, Grandpa, you didn't forget about me, did you? If I hadn't brought it up today, were you just planning to spring the awakening ceremony on me the day after tomorrow? Old Jack coughed, trying to cover his embarrassment. You know how it is, getting old, memory's not what it used to be. Jiang Chen was a little exasperated. All right, I'll head back then. I'll be there on time for the awakening ceremony. Yeah, you do that, old Jack said, waving him off. As soon as Jiang Chen was gone, old Jack practically ripped the door open, eagerly hauling in the big fish. I knew I wasn't wrong about him. Xiao Chen's a good kid, a real stand-up guy. Jiang Chen's habit of bringing him wild game every so often reinforced his conviction that taking Jiang Chen in had been a smart move. Jiang Chen, already some distance away, perked up his ears. Hearing old Jack muttering to himself, a smile played on his lips. Clang, 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 the sound of hammering iron echoed. Jiang Chen stopped, glancing toward the village smithy. 3 simple mud brick houses stood there. A crude wooden sign depicting a hammer hung above the middle one. Jiang Chen knew it was Tang San's place. Tang San was probably already hammering away at the forge. Tang Hao, the sloppy blacksmith, didn't usually surface until noon. He always kept his distance from the smithy. He was the only one in the village who knew Tang Hao's secret. The man was a ridiculously powerful title Douluo. He could take down any title Douluo from the spirit hall, and nearly killed the former pope, all right after becoming a title Douluo. If Tang Hao thought he was a blight, just like the rest of the villagers, and decided to hammer him into the ground, that would be a real raw deal. Back home, Jiang Chen ate the fish and crashed. It was his routine. Daytime practice was a no-go. So, aside from eating, he mostly stayed inside and slept. He finally woke up in the evening. After a quick dinner, he scrambled up to the roof to wait for nightfall. At last, the sun dipped below the horizon, the moon peeked out, and another night descended. Jiang Chen faced the rising moon and began his practice. As he went through the motions, almost invisible strands of moonlight poured down from the sky and were absorbed into his body. His pupils went pitch black. His fingernails, previously short, grew rapidly, becoming over an inch long, black, and razor-sharp. 2 small, white canine teeth elongated grotesquely, jutting out from his tightly closed lips, lending a weirdly cute edge to his handsome face. A dark aura, seemingly straight from the depths of hell, emanated from him, swirling around his body, his small form barely visible within the inky cloud, making him appear almost ghastly. After absorbing the lunar essence, Jiang Chen felt a surge of comfort, utterly absorbed in his cultivation. Chapter 3, He Can't Awaken. The sound of a rooster crowing signaled the dawn of a new day. Jiang Chen slowly gathered his energy and ended his training. Opening his eyes, he saw Tang San hurrying out of the village. For 3 years, rain or shine, Tang San had been making the daily trek to practice on that hill. What a little freak, he muttered, though he secretly admired Tang San's dedication. Thinking of how unpopular he'd been these last few years, he couldn't help but smile wryly. It was all because of that cursed practice of his. When he'd regained the memories of his past life, he'd already been over a year old. At that time, the heavenly corpse transformation technique had popped into his head. Out of nowhere, even the name sounded ominous. Though he knew he'd transmigrated, he was hesitant to try it, a living person practicing a technique for corpses. It sounded like a bad joke. He spent the next year learning the local language, finally figuring out that he'd landed in the Douluo Continent. He'd been a huge novel fan in his previous life, and of course he'd read Douluo Dalu. It was a fantasy world with a chance to become a god. Who could resist that kind of temptation? Jiang Chen wasn't immune, but he still lacked the nerve to jump into that creepy practice. It wasn't until he was 3 and noticed Tang San's unwavering daily training on the mountain that things clicked into place. Tang San, the golden boy of the Douluo Continent, was working his tail off. What did he have? Just that weird exercise, and nothing else. As a kid from the 21st century, who devoured countless novels, he knew what it took to win. Having read Douluo Continent, he knew that starting early could help him awaken innate soul power at 6, giving him a head start, so, he gritted his teeth and started the heavenly corpse transformation. Sure enough, it was powerful, giving him great strength, but it also turned him into a monster, making him the village pariah. The corpse poison in his system wasn't something he could easily control, and every leak caused panic in Holy Soul Village. Once he started this technique, there was no stopping. Otherwise, he would become a mindless vampire zombie. After secretly sucking the blood of a few chickens back then, he never dared to stop practicing. Only by continuing to practice the heavenly corpse transformation could he even hope to live like a normal person. He'd been pretty depressed back then, but he forced himself to keep going. Others transmigrated with amazing systems, while he turned into a zombie. His future happiness was on the line. Eventually, he mellowed out, realizing that cultivation was actually pretty nice, and if becoming a god was in the cards, happiness didn't seem as important. The heavenly corpse transformation had hit a snag recently. No matter how much he practiced, his power wouldn't budge. Jiang Chen figured he was in the same boat as Tang San, needing to obtain his first spirit ring to keep leveling up. His biggest worry right now was, what kind of spirit would he awaken at tomorrow's ceremony? He already had a powerful technique. If he also got a powerful spirit, he'd be set. Even if he wasn't quite as lucky as Tang San, it all came down to tomorrow. Page 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Time passed, and before Jiang Chen knew it, another morning had arrived. Tang San, as usual, headed up the mountain to train. Jiang Chen, practically bouncing with excitement, jumped down from the roof. Today's gonna be a good day, he thought. After a quick breakfast, Jiang Chen made his way to the spirit hall in the village center. He didn't wait for old Jack because he knew Jack was already on his way to pick up Tang San. The spirit hall was basically just a slightly larger shack. He'd watched the spirit awakening ceremony from afar for years, always filled with envy. Now it was finally his turn. This day might just go down in Douluo Continent history. 9 kids from Holy Soul Village were getting their spirits awakened this year. When Jiang Chen arrived at the hall, 7 were already inside. Outside, a crowd of adults buzzed with excitement. They were even more hyped than the kids. These children were the future of Holy Soul Village. If even one of them awakened a spirit master capable of cultivation, the village would be put on the map. Jiang Chen hung back, looking helpless. "Excuse me," he said. A woman in her 30s glanced back, and the instant she saw Jiang Chen standing behind her, she let out a scream that could curdle milk and leaped aside like she'd been shot from a cannon. She cleared 3 meters in a single bound. Jiang Chen was speechless. Did she have to react that dramatically? "I just wanted to get in." Her scream was so blood-curdling that everyone turned to see what was happening. The moment they saw the small figure behind them, they reacted the same way. Screams erupted, and the entire front of the spirit hall cleared out instantly. "Jiang Chen, what are you doing here?" a middle-aged man asked, frowning. Jiang Chen gave his most innocent smile. "I'm 6 this year, uncle. I'm here for the spirit awakening ceremony." Everyone suddenly understood, but one person still said, "Hold on, he can't go in. They're already starting. What if he messes things up? What if he ruins the whole ceremony?" "Yeah, don't let him in. My son's in there. What if he screws up my son's awakening? What if he uses his voodoo magic again?" He'll ruin the spirits of every kid in there. The fortune teller said my son's destined to be a titled Douluo. I'll risk my life to keep that kid away. The accusations flew, and a few villagers even blocked the door. They looked ready to defend their children to the death. They were absolutely not going to let Jiang Chen anywhere near their precious sons and daughters. Su Yuntao had watched the whole thing from inside, and he was starting to lose his patience. He'd already been to 2 villages and hadn't found a single kid who could cultivate. He was not in a good mood. He had a tight schedule today. After Holy Soul Village, 5 more villages were waiting. Seeing that the children were late and one was being blocked outside, he finally snapped. Let that kid through. He roared. Chapter for Su Yuntao's disappointment. Su Yuntao's voice boomed, amplified by his spirit power. It was like a lion's roar, and it stopped the villagers in their tracks. They looked at Su Yuntao, fear in their eyes. They stood frozen, silent, the 7 children inside huddled together, terrified, staring at Su Yuntao's angry face. The spirit hall master's angry. What do we do? They thought. Su Yuntao glared at the villagers, his face darkening. He was about to yell again when old Jack's voice cut through the silence. What are you all standing around for? The spirit master told you to get out of the way. Didn't you hear him? Old Jack dragged Tang San over, looking like an angry old badger, and nearly whacked the villagers with his cane. They scrambled aside, not daring to cross old Jack. Are you all nuts? Old Jack continued. If you make the spirit master mad, who's gonna awaken our kids' spirits? Master Su Yuntao is the greatest, you hear? The villagers came to their senses and quickly shouted, Master Su Yuntao, we're sorry. Su Yuntao's expression softened. He liked the old man's flattery. Bring the children in. I'm running short on time. But someone still piped up, village chief, what about Jiang Chen? Old Jack glared at him and, ignoring the interruption, said to Jiang Chen, Xiaoxue, get in there, and remember to keep your distance. No problem. Jiang Chen shot inside, grinning. Keep your distance meant at least 5 meters from everyone else, just in case. You all wait outside, old Jack ordered, pulling Tang San into the room. The spirit hall door slammed shut, leaving the villagers outside to wait anxiously. Master Su Yuntao, we're grateful for your help, old Jack said respectfully. Su Yuntao nodded, satisfied with the old man's attitude. Let's get started. Line the children up. The 7 children rushed forward, Tang San was pushed to the back, and Jiang Chen brought up the rear. Tang San, with his adult mind, hadn't really clicked with the other kids over the years. It was normal for him to be left out. Page 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Needless to say, Jiang Chen hung back, leaning against the wooden door with his arms crossed, looking totally relaxed. Old Jack saw him and blew a fuse, glaring and winking like crazy. Jiang Chen had no choice but to straighten up. Meanwhile, 5 meters ahead, Tang San kept glancing back at Jiang Chen, watching him like a hawk, as if he thought Jiang Chen might suddenly jump him. Jiang Chen found Tang San's wary attitude amusing. He raised his hands to his cheeks, bared his mouth, showing off 2 cute little tiger teeth, and stared playfully at Tang San. Tang San shuddered and quickly turned away, not daring to look at Jiang Chen again. Su Yuntao, seeing the kids lined up, announced, My name is Su Yuntao. I'm a level 26 soul master, and I'll be your guide. Today, I'm going to awaken your martial souls. When I release my martial soul, things might get a little intense, but don't freak out. Seriously, don't be scared. I mean it. He repeated the warning because he knew kids often ran off screaming, which really slowed things down. He then pulled out his tools, 6 jet black stones and a blue crystal ball. He arranged the 6 stones into a hexagram and gestured for the first child to step inside. Close your eyes and focus. Don't open them until I say so. Lone Wolf, awaken. Su Yuntao roared, transforming before the children's horrified eyes. His long hair whipped around, his body swelled, and his clothes looked ready to burst. Jiang Chen watched the transformation with curiosity. Except for his still handsome face, Su Yuntao looked just like the werewolves from those movies back home. Aside from Jiang Chen and Tang San, the other kids were shaking with fear. The first child kept his eyes tightly shut, missing Su Yuntao's terrifying transformation. Su Yuntao was pleased. If the first child went smoothly, the others would be less scared. He activated the magic circle on the ground, and a golden dome enveloped the child. Countless golden sparks flew from the black stones and into the boy's body, calming him down. "Extend your right hand," Su Yuntao instructed gently. The boy did, and a sickle slowly appeared in his palm. Su Yuntao's face fell. A sickle could be used for attack, but he had never heard of a powerful sickle-wielding soul master. This kind of martial soul was only good for farming. He picked up the crystal ball to test the child's soul power, and the result was even more disappointing. No soul power at all meant the child couldn't cultivate. Su Yuntao was deflated as 6 kids in a row awakened only farming tool spirits. The little girl before Tang San was a bit different, awakening blue-silver grass. A useless martial soul. Blue-silver grass is the most useless martial soul on Douluo Continent. Su Yuntao's words sent the little girl into tears. He took her hand and tested it, confirming she had no soul power. Finally, it was Tang San's turn. He stepped into the circle without Su Yuntao telling him to. "Tang San, you got this." Jiang Chen called out from the back. Tang San nodded, determined. None of the previous 7 kids had awakened a martial soul that could be cultivated, and his hope was dwindling. Becoming a soul master was proving to be really tough. Su Yuntao activated the magic circle again. Tang San successfully summoned his martial soul, a gently swaying blade of blue-silver grass. Su Yuntao initially rejoiced, seeing more golden sparks pouring out than from all the other kids combined. But Tang San's martial soul doused his excitement. The joy vanished. Su Yuntao's expression went blank, and he waved his hand dismissively. "Worthless martial soul, next." Old Jack looked heartbroken, his old face etched with disappointment. This year was turning out to be a bust. "Sir, haven't you tested my soul power yet?" Tang San reminded him. Su Yuntao replied, "No need. With a worthless martial soul like that, you couldn't possibly have soul power." "Just let me try," Tang San insisted. Jiang Chen added, "Master Soul Master, please. It won't take much of your time." "Fine," Su Yuntao said, turning back and walking to Tang San with the crystal ball. Seeing Su Yuntao's indifferent attitude, Jiang Chen secretly chuckled. Tang San's soul power was about to blow this guy's mind. Chapter 5. Such a strong resentment, such an evil breath. Su Yuntao stood before Tang San with the crystal ball, looking impatient, barely glancing at it. Then, in an instant, a dazzling light burst from the crystal ball, flooding the entire room. A smile finally broke across old Jack's face. Su Yuntao looked down in shock, staring at the crystal ball glowing bright blue. Innate, full soul power. He stuttered, completely stunned. "How is this even possible?" he exclaimed. He snatched the crystal ball away and stared at Tang San, his expression a mixture of disbelief and regret. Innate full soul power, what a waste. Su Yuntao was crushed. If only Tang San's martial soul wasn't blue-silver grass. Tang San absorbed the new term, innate full soul power, and eagerly asked what it meant. Perhaps out of pity, Su Yuntao patiently explained some basic knowledge about soul masters to Tang San. In the end, Su Yuntao shook his head. What a waste. Such a rare genius, born with full soul power, but cursed with such a useless martial soul. If only. Tang San wasn't disheartened by Su Yuntao's words. He stepped aside, looking curiously at Jiang Chen. Page 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If you asked who the most mysterious person was in Tang San's mind, hands down, it'd be Jiang Chen. Even though it had been over a year, he still got the chills thinking about Jiang Chen's icy aura. It was burned into his memory. He figured if even a trace of that cold stuff hadn't gotten into him back then, he'd have been seriously messed up. Being a Tang sect disciple in his past life, he knew poison better than anyone. but he couldn't even ID the type of poison Jiang Chen's aura contained. That poison was seriously intense. Just a tiny bit almost drained his Shantian Kung Fu internal energy. He'd suspected it might be some kind of corpse poison, but he dismissed that. Corpse poison was a legendary thing back in his day, and he'd never actually seen it. Besides, corpse poison was supposed to come from zombies, but from what he could tell, Jiang Chen wasn't anything like the zombies in the stories. Jiang Chen was such a mystery that Tang San already considered him on his level, or even more dangerous. He was dying to know what kind of spirit Jiang Chen would awaken. Would it be a dud like his? Jiang Chen had already stepped into the awakening circle, even without Su Yuntao telling him to. Seeing Jiang Chen all serious, Su Yuntao, who was getting a little impatient, also straightened up. It was his job to awaken all the kids, after all. Close your eyes and focus. Jiang Chen listened and closed his eyes, starting to feel around. Su Yuntao activated the magic circle. Immediately, a ton of golden light particles poured out, so many they almost filled the whole space. Whoa! Su Yuntao was taken aback, his eyes suddenly gleaming with a faint green light. He'd never seen anyone trigger so many light particles during an awakening. It was seriously off the charts. The golden lights kept coming faster than Jiang Chen could absorb them. In seconds, the whole wooden house was glowing gold, super bright. But everyone kept their eyes open, squinting against the light, watching Jiang Chen in the circle. Old Jack and Su Yuntao were especially excited, barely able to hide their anticipation. With this much action, maybe they were about to see a spirit unlike anything ever seen before. Keep going, feel it with your heart. Su Yuntao yelled. More and more lights popped up. It had been way longer than anyone else's awakening, but the lights kept coming, and there was still no sign of a spirit showing up on Jiang Chen. Su Yuntao looked hyped, but also a little worried. He'd never heard of anything like this. There were tons of deacons at the spirit hall in Notting City, and none of them had ever seen anything like it. And when they were training, in all the weird awakening cases they documented, there was nothing even close to what was happening with Jiang Chen. Could it be a totally new, crazy powerful spirit about to show up? Su Yuntao was practically vibrating with excitement. If he could awaken some amazing spirit and get Jiang Chen to join the spirit hall, then a promotion and a raise, and maybe even winning over that hot girl, would be practically guaranteed. But after a while, Jiang Chen's spirit still hadn't appeared, which made him even more stressed. Click, click, Su Yuntao's face changed. The 6 black energy stones were cracking, and then a wave of golden light burst out, all flowing into Jiang Chen. That was when Jiang Chen finally changed. A never-ending black mist started pouring out behind him. The mist was thick as ink, with a creepy, cold vibe that made your spine tingle. Su Yuntao's heart was pounding. A feeling like death was closing in on him. What kind of spirit was this? Just by waking up, it could make him, a level 26 Great Spirit Master, feel like he was in danger. Get out! He suddenly roared. The kids and old Jack were already freaked out by the aura coming off Jiang Chen. Their legs were shaking, and they weren't about to stick around. They bolted like their tails were on fire. Tang San was still standing there, staring hard at Jiang Chen's back. It was that aura again, icy cold, like it came from the deepest pits of hell, and carrying a super strong, nasty poison that gave him, a Tang sect disciple, a major headache. Now he finally understood. The poison came from Jiang Chen's spirit. He didn't want to leave. He wanted to see what Jiang Chen's spirit was, hoping it might tell him what that crazy poison was. Little San, get out of there! Old Jack yelled from outside. But the black mist behind Jiang Chen was changing again. The swirling mist churned, and slowly, a humanoid figure started taking shape inside, all hazy and indistinct. All anyone could make out was that the figure was wearing some weird, old-fashioned outfit, and its face was hidden in the thick mist, making it impossible to see. Suddenly, the mist thinned around the figure's face, and 2 blood-red lights shot out from its eyes. You could just make out 2 terrifying fangs. As the mist swirled, Tang San saw that the figure was a blue-faced zombie with fangs. The zombie threw back its head and let out a silent scream, and a wave of pressure washed over everyone, making their hearts race and freaking them out. Tang San wasn't about to stick around for that. He ran. Only Su Yuntao stood there, stunned. Even with his strength as a great spirit master, he felt immense pressure from this mysterious spirit, like a weight pressing down on his chest. At the same moment, Tang Hao, who was sitting at home, snapped his head up and stared toward the center of the village, his cloudy eyes flashing with a scary light. Such powerful resentment, such an evil aura, what is that? His voice still echoed in the room, but Tang Hao was already gone, appearing outside the spirit hall in a heartbeat, standing behind everyone, his eyes locked on Jiang Chen inside. Page 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Chen stood inside the six-pointed formation, completely stunned. His spirit turned out to be a zombie. His mind raced. Was it the celestial corpse transformation technique that caused this zombie spirit? Or did this zombie spirit give him the corpse transformation technique? He had no idea, but thankfully, the thick black mist around the zombie spirit wasn't spreading, or it would have infected all of Holy Soul Village with corpse poison. Few could resist such a potent toxin, since most villagers were just ordinary people. He tried to recall the zombie spirit, but it was no use. The zombie spirit kept roaring silently at the sky, but Jiang Chen could feel its overwhelming hatred and unwillingness. Outside, the villagers stared at Jiang Chen in horror, muttering, "Such an evil spirit. He's a jinx." Suddenly, a roar ripped through the cloudless sky, and everything went dark. Black clouds, heavy as lead, threatened to collapse. Bolts of thick lightning, like liquid fire, crisscrossed the churning clouds, and the thunder boomed, nearly bursting eardrums. "Everybody, get out of here now!" A commanding voice sliced through the thunder, resonating in everyone's ears. Tang San looked up, puzzled. The voice sounded familiar, but he couldn't place it. Old Jack reacted and rushed everyone away, turning back anxiously to look at Jiang Chen still inside the spirit hall. The black clouds lowered, the lightning growing even more terrifying. No one had ever seen lightning like this before, purple, black, red, even gold. It was freakish, but Tang Hao felt it the most. While the villagers only sensed immense pressure, he felt a dire threat. He had a strong feeling that if that terrifying lightning struck, he'd be turned to dust. Thankfully, the lightning wasn't aimed at him, but at the kid standing there, dazed. Su Yuntao stumbled out, his face a mask of horror, joining the villagers at a safe distance. "Lord Su Yuntao, what's going on?" Old Jack asked, trembling. Su Yuntao just shook his head, too terrified to speak. His legs were still shaking uncontrollably. Standing in the hall just now, under the roaring thunder, he almost collapsed. He felt death closing in and barely made it out. "Lord Su Yuntao, you're the strongest. You have to save Xiaochen." Old Jack pleaded. "Shut up." Su Yuntao snapped. He wasn't about to go back in there and get himself killed. Panic had gripped the villagers, and they started to babble. "He's cursed. God's punishing him. A spirit awakening causing the wrath of heaven. I hope it doesn't destroy Holy Soul Village. Even if he lives, we can't let him stay. He'll be the death of us." Why was Jiang Chen just standing there? Why wasn't he running? Because he couldn't move. The entire Holy Soul Village had been plunged into night, with thunder flashing intermittently in the darkness, the explosions nearly deafening him. He felt like the lightning was locked on him. He didn't understand. Why would awakening a spirit provoke such terrifying thunder? Was the world really against him because he'd awakened a zombie spirit? Did its mere existence make the heavens themselves want him dead? Then, Jiang Chen felt another power emerge from the zombie spirit behind him. It was the antithesis of corpse poison, radiating violent energy, a terrifying aura that made Jiang Chen's soul tremble. He sensed that this power was similar to the lightning in the sky. As he thought this, the lightning in the sky converged, forming a multicolored bolt and hurtling down towards the wooden house in the terrifying vortex. "Ah!" Screams erupted as people collapsed on the ground. Tang Hao stood beside Tang San, his face grim, the powerful spirit energy in his body ready to explode, ready to snatch Tang San to safety at any moment. Just as the multicolored lightning struck, a thick golden bolt shot out from the wooden house, meeting the multicolored bolt head-on. Boom! High above, the two thunderbolts collided with a deafening explosion, as if the sky itself was being torn apart. the point of impact erupted in light, like a miniature sun, turning the dark world as bright as day. An oppressive atmosphere weighed on everyone's hearts. Su Yuntao desperately wanted to run, but his legs were too weak to defy the power of the heavens. The miniature sun pulsed with terrifying energy. Tang Hao knew he wouldn't last a second in there, he'd be vaporized. Suddenly, the miniature sun vanished. The multicolored lightning shot back up, disappearing into the leaden clouds. The golden lightning returned to the wooden house, absorbed back into the zombie spirit, and was gone, except for Tang Hao, his son, and Su Yuntao. Everyone was paralyzed on the ground. Thankfully, the black clouds began to dissipate, vanishing into thin air, as if they'd never been there at all. Page 8. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Many people blinked, fear lingering in their hearts, and a feeling of relief washed over them. Xiaoxue. Old Jack shouted, rushing forward, his hands trembling. Even though he was usually a bit intimidated by Jiang Chen, he'd come to see him as his own grandson. Of course he was worried. Let's go take a look, Tang Hao said. He placed his large hand on the back of Tang San's head, and the two of them headed toward the wooden house. Su Yuntao's expression was unreadable. He sensed the air carefully, gritted his teeth, and followed. The danger seemed to have passed, and his livelihood was still inside. He had to see what kind of spirit this awakened martial soul was to have caused such a commotion. The other villagers didn't dare approach, their eyes still wide with fear, watching the wooden house from a distance. Inside the room, Jiang Chen's martial soul had disappeared, and he could move again. His back was soaked in sweat. That had been a close call, like staring death in the face. The 6 black stones on the ground had turned to dust. Much to Su Yuntao's dismay, he took out a notebook, and said, annoyed, boy, what kind of martial soul is that? Jiang Chen paused, then decided to be upfront, it's a zombie. Chapter 7, Wanna join the spirit hall? Su Yuntao, who was initially upset, suddenly perked up. This was a completely new martial soul, unlike anything he'd ever seen. He hesitated, then asked, can you control it safely now? Jiang Chen nodded. Yeah, I'm good. After regaining control of his body, he'd gotten some information in his head. Now he could control his martial soul at will. Even the corpse poison, which had always been uncontrollable, was now manageable. The uncontrolled leakage from before was a thing of the past. Alright, let's see you release it, Su Yuntao said excitedly. He'd forgotten about his ruined tool and was practically jumping out of his skin. This was a brand new martial soul, awakened by him. Whether or not he could recruit Jiang Chen to the spirit hall, he was in line for a sweet reward. Just reporting Jiang Chen's zombie spirit would get him major points with the spirit hall higher-ups. They might even write his name in the records and pass it down for generations. Jiang Chen nodded. With a thought, he easily released his martial soul. This time, there was no thick black mist. The zombie martial soul's true form was revealed for everyone to see. The zombie wore ancient clothing and had a towering skeleton. It had no muscles, but looked powerfully built. Its black nails were sharp as knives, and a dark, terrifying aura surrounded it. Its face was gaunt, with 2 sharp fangs exposed, horrifying and creepy. Su Yuntao, Tang San, Tang Hao, and Old Jack all stared in amazement. This was a humanoid martial soul. They'd never heard of such a thing. Su Yuntao and Tang Hao knew about intrinsic martial souls, but those were based on a body part or organ. The zombie spirit in front of them was a complete human form. Was this like an enhanced version of the intrinsic spirit? People said intrinsic martial souls were crazy strong. Just how powerful would Jiang Chen's martial soul be? Martial soul possession. Jiang Chen shouted, and the hulking zombie behind him turned into black light, merging into his body. His body started to change rapidly. The transformation was just like before. 2 teeth elongated, his pupils turned completely black, and his nails became razor sharp. Jiang Chen secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If he'd gotten as gaunt as that zombie spirit, he'd want to die. What are your martial soul's abilities? Su Yuntao had already pulled out his small notebook, ready to jot everything down. Jiang Chen clenched his fists, and said excitedly, when I possess the martial soul, my strength, speed, and defense are all boosted big time, and the soul power is super toxic. His soul power was already seriously toxic. Now that he possessed the martial soul, the toxicity was even more terrifying. He could probably kill a full-grown buffalo with a single drop of poison. Su Yuntao scribbled furiously, excellent. This is a brand new, powerful martial soul. Now, I'll test your innate soul power. He excitedly grabbed the crystal ball and handed it to Jiang Chen. Even though he'd never awakened a powerful martial soul himself, he knew from his spirit hall training that the stronger the martial soul, the higher the soul power. For example, the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex martial soul almost always had high levels of soul power. Jiang Chen was just as excited as Su Yuntao. He reached out and touched the crystal ball, and immediately felt a powerful suction. The soul power in his body began to rush into the crystal ball. It was just like what happened to Tang San earlier. After the crystal ball absorbed his soul power, it instantly lit up, filling the room with blue light. Ha ha ha. Full soul power again. Su Yuntao, just hit the jackpot. Su Yuntao laughed like a maniac. He was losing it. Finally, he saw a chance to make something of himself. Young man, would you be interested in joining the illustrious spirit hall? Su Yuntao asked sweetly, like a wolf trying to lure a lost lamb. Jiang Chen had been expecting this. He smiled and said, Master Su Yuntao, I'm not planning on joining the spirit hall yet. I'd like to study at Nodding Soul Master Academy. He'd planned this out already. Even though he had awesome skills and talent, he wasn't counting on having Tang San's plot armor. After all, geniuses died young all the time. Page 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If he wanted to become a god, sticking close to Tang San, the chosen one, was the easiest path. In a little over a decade, he could effortlessly snag a divine position. He'd be a fool not to take the easy way out. I urge you to reconsider. The Spirit Hall is the most powerful soul master organization on the Douluo Continent. You'll receive top-notch training there. With your full innate soul power, you could even become a titled Douluo. Su Yuntao insisted. He'd never wanted something so badly. If he could recruit Jiang Chen, his own status would skyrocket. A promotion, a raise, and maybe even a lovely Cici. The thought alone thrilled him. Old Jack, his eyes practically glowing, pushed past his dizziness and rushed up to Jiang Chen, whacking him upside the head. Are you nuts, kid? Joining the Spirit Hall would be amazing. In a few decades, you'd be a titled Douluo, and we could rename Holy Soul Village to titled Douluo Village. He sputtered, looking utterly frustrated. Jiang Chen was speechless. He'd never seen old Jack so worked up. Su Yuntao watched Jiang Chen expectantly, a smile playing on his lips. Titled Douluo was the pinnacle of power in this world. He couldn't believe any kid could resist that kind of temptation. Seeing Jiang Chen hesitate, he pressed on, if you join the Spirit Hall, we can get you your first soul ring tomorrow and make you a real soul master. For a 6-year-old, becoming a soul master right away was just as enticing as the distant promise of becoming a titled Douluo. It was something tangible, not just a pipe dream. He was sure the chance to become a soul master immediately would win the kid over, but Jiang Chen stubbornly shook his head. I'm sorry, but I still don't want to join the Spirit Hall, at least not right now. Su Yuntao was crushed. It seemed impossible to sway Jiang Chen today. He glanced at old Jack, a plan forming in his mind. If he wanted to get rid of Jiang Chen, he'd have to work through old Jack. Alright, you can go. Village Chief Jack, stick around. I need to give you the martial soul certificates for the other 2 kids. Old Jack glared at Jiang Chen, then turned back to Su Yuntao, his wrinkled face beaming like a sunflower. Thank you, Lord Su Yuntao. I appreciate it. Chapter 8, Don't Hurt My Dad. Free to leave at last, Jiang Chen hurried out, eager to get home and study his zombie spirit. Tang San and his father had been watching from the sidelines, and as soon as Jiang Chen walked out, they followed. Hey, kid, hold up, Tang Hao said, stopping Tang San and calling out to Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen turned, surprised to see Tang San's father, Tang Hao. He'd only seen Tang Hao from a distance before, but this was the first time he'd been so close to a titled Douluo. Tang Hao was as unkempt as ever, his hair a total mess. It looked like he hadn't washed it in months. His face was etched with hardship, his build was burly, and his clothes were patched up. Tang Hao was the only blacksmith in several nearby villages, so you'd think he'd be doing okay, but he spent all his money on booze. "What's up, uncle?" Jiang Chen asked curiously. Now that he could control the corpse energy in his body, he wasn't afraid of Tang Hao. He didn't think Tang Hao would just hammer him. "Thanks for the fish you gave my little San the other day. That was really thoughtful of you. Why don't you come hang out at our place today? You're about the same age, so you guys can get to know each other," Tang Hao said with a smile. Jiang Chen paused, considering. "Sure, okay." Tang San was stunned. He hadn't seen his father smile in years, and now he was smiling because of Jiang Chen. Tang San stared at Jiang Chen like he was from another planet, but he was grateful too. His father had been drowning his sorrows in alcohol for years, living like a zombie, but now Jiang Chen had made him smile. That had to be a good thing. Seeing Jiang Chen agree, Tang Hao's smile widened. He reached out to grab Jiang Chen's hand, but Tang San pulled him back. Tang San gripped his father's hand with both of his, bracing himself and even using the jackhammer technique to keep Tang Hao away from Jiang Chen. "Dad, don't go near him. He's dangerous." Tang San yelled. He'd almost fallen for Jiang Chen's tricks before. He was worried about his father. If he got infected by Jiang Chen's corpse poison, he'd get seriously ill. Plus, the black mist from Jiang Chen's zombie martial soul was even stronger than before. In Tang San's mind, Jiang Chen's danger level had just shot up again. "Huh?" Tang Hao frowned, surprised. He knew Tang San was strong, but he didn't realize he was that strong at just 6 years old. He tensed his arms slightly and easily lifted Tang San off the ground. Tang Hao chuckled. How could a little kid be dangerous? Tang San, dangling in the air, was shocked by his father's strength. He'd just used his soul power, making him several 100 pounds strong, but his father had lifted him like he was nothing. He had no choice but to let go and drop to the ground. "Dad, Jiang Chen is nicknamed the Plague God. He can poison anyone who gets near him." Tang San worried. Jiang Chen grinned mischievously, his bright black eyes darting around. He ran up and slung an arm around Tang San's shoulders. Tang San froze, his skin prickling like a scared chicken. "Let's go, uncle," Jiang Chen said, smiling brightly as he hugged Tang San's shoulder. Tang Hao chuckled, nodded, and led the way. "Let's go, Xiao San," Jiang Chen whispered, leaning close to Tang San's ear, licking his lips. Tang San saw Jiang Chen's 2 small canine teeth right next to his neck and remembered his appearance when he activated his martial soul. His hair stood on end. He was terrified that Jiang Chen would bite him, puncture his veins, and drink his blood. Page 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Others on Douluo Continent wouldn't know a zombie if it bit them, but he knew exactly what it was, a bloodsucker. Tang San threw all his inner strength into overdrive, twisting free of Jiang Chen's grip and practically teleporting to his father's side. Jiang Chen was a bit taken aback. Talk about overreacting. "I just showed my teeth, but that kid's neck did look mighty tempting." Jiang Chen couldn't help but swallow hard. He'd never had human blood before, and being that close to Tang San had triggered a primal urge. Suddenly, Tang San's neck seemed like the most delicious drumstick he'd ever seen. He shook his head, battling the urge, and hurried after Tang San and his dad. He still couldn't figure out why Tang Hao had suddenly summoned him. It felt weird. Maybe Tang Hao recognized my off-the-charts talent and wants Tang San to buddy up with me. Jiang Chen mused, as he walked past the gawking villagers. They scattered like cockroaches under a flashlight. They used to get within spitting distance, but now they wouldn't come near him with a 10-foot pole. "That Tang Hao's got a death wish, doesn't he?" "Yeah, well, Guess we can kiss goodbye to getting him to fix our farm tools. Exactly. I already told my kid to steer clear of Tang San. Tang Hao led Tang San and Jiang Chen towards their house. Tang San kept glancing back at Jiang Chen from behind his father, terrified he'd pull something and hurt Tang Hao. He was already racking his brain, trying to figure out how to deal with corpse poison. He might not have seen it in his past life, but he'd read about it in the 100 Poisons manual. For low-level corpse poisoning, the symptoms aren't too bad. Glutinous rice should do the trick. Good thing we have some at home. Tang San breathed a small sigh of relief. Reaching their house, Tang Hao beamed, Xiaoxue, make yourself at home. Jiang Chen smiled and took a seat. Tang Hao suddenly realized he'd invited Jiang Chen over and had nothing to offer him. Ahem, little San, come here a sec. Tang Hao said, heading into the back room. Tang San followed close behind. Dad, what's up? Tang Hao shushed him and whispered, you know how to catch fish, right? Tang San nodded, confused. Why was his dad asking this? He'd never actually fished before, but with his hidden weapon skills, it should be a piece of cake. Ahem, well, we got a guest, so go snag a couple and cook them up. Tang Hao's face turned as red as a beet. Tang San finally understood. He stared at his father, completely baffled. His dad seemed like a different person today, but despite the confusion, it felt good. He'd never seen his father so happy. Maybe I should thank Jiang Chen. Tang San thought, coming out of the back room. Tang San whispered in Jiang Chen's ear, don't hurt my dad, got it? Jiang Chen nodded. Relax, I'm one of the good guys. Tang San shot him one last warning look before heading out. Jiang Chen was flabbergasted. Your dad's a freakin' hidden boss. You think I'm gonna mess with him? That's just asking for trouble. Chapter 9, Uncle shows you how to work iron. Tang San was quick. He was back with 2 fish in no time. Jiang Chen was surprised. So that's what the kid had been up to. He noticed 2 tiny holes in the fish's heads. Like they'd been pierced by something. Must be a hidden weapon. Jiang Chen realized. He watched Tang San clumsily trying to gut the fish and moved closer, startling the kid, who was sweating bullets and trying to concentrate. Seeing Tang San wielding the kitchen knife with all the grace of a newborn giraffe, Jiang Chen burst out laughing. Here, let me. He snatched the knife from Tang San and, with lightning speed, scaled the fish, gutted it, removed the gills, and rinsed it clean. Tang San watched, jaw dropped, as Jiang Chen finished the job in a few minutes. Bet that blew your mind, huh? Jiang Chen said, grinning at Tang San's stunned expression. Tang San nodded, then quickly shook his head, pursed his lips, and thought, big deal. Alright, you're on ingredient duty. Onion, ginger, garlic, chili, wine, soy sauce. Jiang Chen grabbed another fish, but Tang San just stood there. You want all that stuff? Can't you just boil them and eat them? Tang San asked, incredulous. You kidding me? Hurry up and get the stuff. Jiang Chen said, knowing full well Tang San had the taste buds of a goat. If he cooked for him, even the dogs would turn up their noses. Tang Hao stood off to the side, watching the 2 busy figures with amusement.